Hello everyone! In this lesson, we will create a new post type for campuses. At this point so far, we've created post types for events, programs, and professors. Right, so now we want to create a new post type named campuses. So let's jump into our text editor, and instead of our theme folder, I want you to jump into the MU or must use plugins folder, and let's jump into this file. In order to avoid extra typing, why don't we just duplicate or copy and paste this code for the event post type? Right, so let's copy and paste these 15 or so lines. And then maybe just right above that, let's paste it in. And now we can just change the word from event to campus. So on this comment line, campus post type. For the actual code name or variable name for the post type, let's change that to single campus. Don't need that to be plural. Let's set the archive URL to be campuses, as in plural. Okay, next we can edit all of the different labels. So this should be plural and capitalized, campuses. Add new campus. You can even just copy and paste the word, right? But this one should be plural, so campuses. And finally, let's choose a new dash icon or menu icon. So instead of dash icons calendar, let's go with dash icons dash location dash alt. Okay, let's go ahead and save this. And if we jump back into the admin, we now see this brand new post type named campuses. And the icon looks like a map with a pin on it, which will fit the theme of our different campus locations. So right now, why don't we go ahead and create a few new campus posts. So add new. Why don't we title this campus Downtown West? Let's give it a bit of dummy content. Why don't we give it a subtitle of a beautiful campus in the heart of downtown? Okay, let's go ahead and save or publish that. And while we're at it, why don't we create another new campus? So add new. Let's call this Downtown East. Give it some dummy content. Not all of the campuses need a subtitle, so let's just go ahead and save or publish this one. And then let's click on the main campuses link in the sidebar to see a list of all of our campuses so far. So we've just got the 2, but you could imagine that our university maybe has 5 or 10 different campus locations throughout town or throughout the city. So if we've got different locations all throughout the city, it would be nice if on the front end of our website we had an interactive Google map with a pin for each one of our campus locations. Now, in order to pin a location on a map, we're going to need to know more than just the title of a post and a bit of dummy content, right? So if I click on Downtown West, what I'm trying to say is that in addition to the title field and the content field, we need a new custom field down here where you can drag around and zoom around on a Google map and then click where you want the pin to be. And then it will save the latitude and longitude and the address into our database. So we know what to do. When you want to add a new custom field, we can make use of our Advanced Custom Fields plugin. So down towards the bottom of the sidebar, let's click on Custom Fields. And let's create a new field group. So Add New button. Why don't we name this group Map Location? Okay, so that's the group name, but we need to create the actual field. So Add Field. Why don't we also just name the field Map Location? And then here's the important part. For the field type choice, instead of text, if we look down a bit, we see an option named Google Map. Right, so let's set the field type to Google Map. We don't need any field instructions. I do think we should set this to be required, so required yes. You shouldn't be allowed to create a campus unless you provide a location for the campus. Let's go ahead and keep scrolling down. All of these other default values will work just perfectly. But if we scroll down, I do want to make sure that we fill out the location box. So let's say, show this field group only if post type is equal to, and let's set this to campus. Right, because we don't need to set a map location for a blog post or a traditional page. So campus, and then let's just scroll up and save or publish our new field. Okay, and let's go test it out. So if we click on campuses again, and let's try to edit Downtown West. And if we scroll down to find our new custom field, here we see map location, but we see an error message on the map. First of all, this error is totally normal and to be expected. In order to talk to the Google Maps service on a website, you need a Google Maps API key. Now you might be thinking, but hey, I've embedded Google Maps on a website before, and I didn't need an API key then. Well, in reality, you were probably just importing an iframe that pointed towards a web page that lived on Google servers. Instead of that, we want to actually be able to talk to the Google Maps service using JavaScript. But Google is going to ignore us unless we have an API key. So at this point, you might be wondering, what in the world is an API key? I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but an API key is just a string of letters and numbers. You could almost think of it as a password, but you don't always need to keep it a complete secret like a real password. Basically, it's a secret handshake that we're going to make with the Google servers, so it will let us actually communicate with the Google Maps service. Now at this point in the lesson, I want to show you how you can create your own Google Maps API key. Right now, in a new tab, I want you to visit console.developers.google.com. You'll need to be signed in with a Google account. Okay, but once you're logged into an account and you visit this URL, then I want you to create a new project. You might see a button to create a new project down in the main content area, or towards the top here, if I click on this button to switch which project I'm working with, here we see New Project. So I can go ahead and click on that. We need to give our project a name. The name does not matter, it's just for your own organization purposes. Why don't we name it WordPress Theme Dev? And then go ahead and click Create. Okay, it might take 5 or 10 seconds to complete, but now I want to be sure to switch over to that new project. So I can click this, click on that new project. You can either double click it or click the open link. And now you can see that I'm working with a new project. And actually, before we go any further and we learn how to create an API key for Google Maps in this project, before we get to that, I don't want to waste your time. So I want to let you know right now that you must enable billing in your Google account in order for your API key to work. Now it makes me sick to my stomach that you would need to enter any sort of billing information within the context of an educational course. But unfortunately, Google has put us in a bit of a tough situation here. So when I first created this WordPress course a couple of years ago, you could absolutely use the Google Maps service for free. You didn't need to enter any billing information, and as long as you weren't making millions of requests per month, it didn't cost a single penny. So back then, I thought this was the perfect exercise for an educational WordPress course. But fast forward to today, and now I absolutely do not recommend or support using Google Maps. Having said that, because the campus map was part of the course when the course launched and was part of the course when some of you first purchased the course, I don't feel like it's fair for me to remove the map feature from the course. So where does that leave us now? Well, it still won't cost you a single penny to set up this map feature, but you will have to have some sort of credit card or debit card or payment info on file with Google. Now, I completely understand if you're not comfortable with that. If that's the case, then you can still have your campus post type, and we can still learn how to relate a campus to a program or an event within the context of WordPress, but you can just skip the map feature. That's one option. The other option is to go ahead and enter billing information into your Google account. Now, don't quote me on this because Google changes their policies all the time, but as of this recording, they claim that your first 12 months are free, and or if you stay under a certain quota limit with your API keys, that again, it will be free. In just a moment, when we set up our API key, I will show you how you can set up a quota, and I set really strict quota limits just to make sure that I never go over the free limit, to make sure that my account never actually truly gets billed. Right? Because let's be honest, unless you're creating an app like Uber or Lyft or DoorDash or some sort of application that truly needs map functionality and that's going to be generating revenue because of map functionality, unless that's the case, I don't think it makes sense to pay even 1 cent or $1 to work with a Google map. Having said all of that, if you're comfortable using a Google service like this, let me show you how to move forward. So once you've selected the new project that we created, we want to enable APIs and services. So let's click that. Okay, now Google has a bunch of different APIs we can search from. Right now, we need to enable 3 different APIs. The first one we want to search for is Maps JavaScript API. Here it is, Maps JavaScript API. Let's click on that. Okay, and then we just click this Enable button. Okay, we do need to go back and enable 2 other APIs. So you can click this logo in the top left to go back to sort of the home page for this project. And then I'm going to click this button again, Enable APIs and Services. This time we're going to search for one named Places API. Here it is, Places API. Let's click on that. Let's go ahead and click Enable. Okay, and we need to enable one other third final API. So we can just use this search bar up here. Let's search for Geocoding API. So in the results, here it is, Geocoding API. Let's click on that. Then let's click Enable. Okay, now that we've enabled all 3 APIs that our project needs, now we can actually create the key. So be sure to click this logo up in the top left to go back to sort of the home page for our project. And then from there, we need to click on Credentials here in the sidebar. Be sure to go back to the home of your project before clicking on Credentials in the sidebar, because we don't want it for just that final geocoding API. We want it for our project in general. Okay, but from this screen, we're going to click Create Credentials. That should open up a menu, and then we're going to click this API key option. Okay, and this is our API key. I want you to select this value and copy it into your clipboard. We're going to use this in our WordPress theme files in just a bit. So make sure that's copied into your clipboard before moving forward, and then we want to click this Restrict Key option. Okay, down here we see Application Restrictions, and we can choose different options here. We want to click on this HTTP Refers option. Okay, then if we scroll down a bit further, we can click this Add an Item. And this is where we say which domains are allowed to use the API key. This would be whatever domain your local WordPress website has been using. So most likely that's fictional-university.local. So fictional-university.local. Okay, let's click this Done button here. Next, under this API restrictions header, I do want to restrict the key. And then I can choose which APIs. I'm just going to select these 3 that I currently have. So geocoding, Maps JavaScript, and Places. Okay, then I'm going to click Save. Okay, now this next step might not be entirely necessary. However, this helps me sleep at night. So if some troll comes to my campus map screen on my website and they refresh the page 5 billion times, I don't want Google sending me a bill. So what I want to do now is add a quota to these services in my account. So you can click on Dashboard to go back to sort of the main screen. And then if we scroll down towards the bottom, here we see our different APIs. Let's just click on each one. So I clicked on Geocoding API. And now in the sidebar, we can see quotas. So let's click on quotas. This is just my own paranoia because I don't want Google billing me even 1 penny, but I would just set these numbers to be very small, so that we never go over the free threshold credit that Google gives you every month. So requests per day, I would just edit that to maybe 50. So uncheck unlimited, put 50, click the confirmation, hit save, and then I'm not going to bore you by showing you that every single time, but do take the time to go through. I'm going to do this off camera, but I would set all of these to some very low number. Be sure to scroll down on this page and do the same thing for these options as well. Okay, and that was just one of our 3 services. So I would recommend clicking this link to go back to your main screen. Scroll down. So we took care of geocoding quotas. I would then click on Maps JavaScript API, click on quotas in the left sidebar, do the same thing, and then also come back and do the same thing for Places API. You probably don't need to do this, but I don't trust Google at all. Okay, at this point, we're almost done. but you do need to add Google Billing before your API key will actually work. So in this top left icon here, you can click on that, and then that opens a menu. You will need to click on Billing here and add some sort of payment information into the Google account. Okay, long story short though, once your project is associated with some sort of billing info, we are ready to take our API key and jump back into WordPress. So remember earlier I told you to copy that key value into your clipboard. Hopefully it's still in your clipboard, otherwise you can click on credentials here and go find it again. But anyways, with that value in your clipboard, let's jump back into our text editor. We can forget about the MU plugins folder for now. Let's jump back to our theme folder, and I want you to open up functions.php. Let's scroll down to the very bottom and drop down to a new line, and let's say add filter. And for the first argument, we want to target that advanced custom fields plugin and let it know that we have a Google Maps API key. So let's say ACF, which stands for Advanced Custom Fields, / and then let's look in fields. We are interested in the Google Map type of field, and we're dealing with the API. Okay, now the second argument is just the name of a function that we are going to create. So we could name this whatever we want. Why don't we call it University Map Key? Okay, now if we are telling WordPress to run a function with this name, we better make sure and actually create that function. So let's say function, and let's reuse that name, University Map Key, parentheses, curly brackets. Within the signature for this function, within the parentheses, let's give it a parameter of $API. The Advanced Custom Fields plugin will make this data available to us. So now we can use it within the body of our function. So let's just target that data, or that array I should say. Let's look inside that array for a property named key, and then we're just going to set that to equal quotes, and then at this point you can just paste in the Google Maps API key that you generated, right, or that Google gave to you. So let's add a semicolon at the end of that line, and then while we are still in the body of the function, let's just return that API array. So basically the plugin gave us this piece of data to work with, we manipulated a property of it, and then we'd return it right back. So let's go ahead and save that. And now if we jump back into the WordPress admin where we were editing the Downtown West campus, remember previously we saw an error message on that custom map field, but now if we reload or refresh the page, scroll back down, awesome, the Google Map is working. If yours isn't working, you might just need to wait 5 or 10 or 20 minutes once you've added your billing information to Google for Google to realize that your key should now be valid. Let's test it out and try to pin a location for this Downtown West campus. So in this text field right above the map, you can just begin searching for your local city or town or wherever you want to create this fictional university. I'm going to pretend that it's in New York City, so maybe I'll search for Manhattan, New York, and then I can click on this suggestion. And I'm saying this is Downtown West, so I'm going to place a pin maybe towards the west side of this, maybe right here. Doesn't matter, it's just totally made up, but here we can see the pin. So now let's go ahead and save this post, and then let's go assign a location for Downtown East. So click on Campuses. Let's edit this one, Downtown East. Let's search again for Manhattan. Maybe we'll say that the Eastern Campus is over here. Okay, let's go ahead and update or save that post. Okay, so we now have 2 campuses with map locations. So now the question becomes, if I jump to the front end of the website, you could imagine that if we clicked on campuses up in the header, we would want an interactive Google map with the different pins to all of our campuses. So the question is, how in the world do we create that? Well, that's exactly what we are going to learn how to do in our next lesson. Let's keep things rolling, and I will see you then.